In the background you can see a MythTV installation with dual screens. This video clip will show you how to install MythBuntu, which is another flavor of Ubuntu. This video demonstration of the MythBuntu installation is created using a virtual box which enables us to videotape the install. MythBuntu is a flavor of Ubuntu that comes with the MythTV package included in the installation. This makes it easier to install MythTV on your Ubuntu system. This video only includes the installation of the operating system. We will learn more about MythTV in the Vidiots Guide for Linux to Multimedia course. To begin, we select the language and click Install MythBuntu. We should make sure that the conditions shown on this screen are met before we start the installation. Probably the most critical part of the install preparation is the disk preparation. This is slightly different from the other version of Linux we saw installed. Here we have a choice to erase and use the entire disk or to specify the partitions manually. We have a special section just on partitioning coming up as a lab at the end of this chapter. In this example, we're going to erase and use the entire disk. If you are plugged into the internet and have an active connection, chances are it will guess your location and time zone. If not, you can manually enter that information. Here we select the keyboard layout type and language. You can use the figure out keyboard layout helper if you want, but if you know the keyboard, just select the type here. In this case, we're selecting the USA language and the USA keyboard. In this screen, we enter our full name, we can use the computer name that the system selects for us, or modify it or change it completely. Also, we can use the username the system selects or modify that as well. Choose a password and confirm the password. And this screen is particular to the MythTV installation itself. In this example, we're going to select primary backend with front end. That means we'll have the MythTV backend and front end installed on this machine. If you're new to this or have never done this before, this is probably your best choice to start out with a MythTV installation. The MythTV application is a client-server application. Generally, we have at least one MythTV backend which actually does the recording for us, and several front-end clients which can watch television all at the same time. This window also is unique to a MythBuntu installation. Here we have additional services we can install for supporting MythTV as well as doing remote administration of MythTV. In this case, the one service we should check if we want to really use MythTV is the MythTV service, which will allow other client machines to access this machine on the network. The remote control setup for MythTV is beyond the scope of this course. We will cover remote controls in the MythTV section of the Vidiots Guide course at a later date. This version of MythTV is using Ubuntu 10.10, so it's no surprise that portions of the installation look very much like the Ubuntu 10.04 or 11.04 install that we saw previously in other videos. The MythTV system is more or less a high-tech TiVo. The people that made MythTV would probably be upset if they heard me calling it a TiVo. It really is much more than that. However, it is a pretty cool system and pretty involved to set up. At this point, we basically just have to let the rest of the files copy and the installation continue. We're really not expecting that you would use a MythTV machine for taking the beginner's course of learning Ubuntu. However, we did want to show you this as one of the flavors of Ubuntu as part of your introduction to learning about Ubuntu. With the MythTV system, you can schedule shows using a web browser interface to the MythTV backend. You can view TV listings and upcoming recordings. You can delete, you can stream, and you can manage shows that you've already recorded. So it is a pretty sophisticated TiVo type of system, plus a lot more. This slide is showing us that there are multiple versions of the MythTV application, and at some point you can select the version you want to use. Again, that's a topic beyond the scope of this course that we will cover in the Vidiots Guide course at a later date. Now, the MythTV installation uses the SCFE desktop. At the end of this video, though, we will show you how to switch it to the GNOME desktop. So if you needed to, you could actually use a MythTV machine to take this beginning course. In a similar manner to the other installations of Ubuntu we've seen, when the MythBuntu installation is complete, we will have to remove our install media and reboot the system. In this case, as our system rebooted, we immediately had an offer to upgrade to version 11.04. In this example, we're not going to do that. You can do that later at any time that you desire. With the MythBuntu installation, when the system starts, it automatically starts the MythTV client interface for us. Later on in this video, we'll show you how to disable that in case you want to use a MythBuntu machine to take this beginner course. After completing an install and restarting the system, we may be notified of updates. Generally, it's a good idea to let the system update so you have the latest security fixes and bug fixes for your MythBuntu system. When you run the updates, basically you need to be connected to the internet. The package files are downloaded and then installed, and you may be prompted to restart the system after the update, especially if it installs a new operating system kernel. During the updating process, you can click the Details button, which will open a terminal-like window and show you item by item what's going on during the update process. When you're finished looking at that, you can click the Details again to close or minimize this window. We see here, in this case, it appears that the operating system kernel has been upgraded and we are being prompted to restart the machine. So again, our system restarts and also again starts the MythTV application for us as part of the startup process. In this section, we're showing you how to change the desktop so it matches the ones we showed in our video. From the Applications, Settings, and Desktop menu, we can change the appearance of the desktop as shown. If you don't like the dark default MythTV desktop, which is meant to look like a TV that's turned off, you can easily change the desktop by following the instructions we're showing you here. From the Settings Manager, we can select Settings Manager, then select the Session and Startup, and in that list in the tab we're showing you can see the MythTV front end. We can disable that if we want so it doesn't start all the time. This will enable us to use this machine for something besides MythTV. For example, if you want to use that to take this course. Now if we want to run the Ubuntu Classic desktop on the MythBuntu, which is the GNOME desktop that we're using for this course, at login, after you select your username, before you select your password, from the drop-down list near the bottom of the screen, we can select Ubuntu Classic, which will then start the machine using the GNOME desktop. That will then match the screenshots very closely that we have throughout this Learn Ubuntu beginning course. If we want to put it back to the way it was using the XFE desktop that comes with MythBuntu, We can then select the MythBuntu session at our login in a similar way to the way we just showed you to select the Ubuntu Classic session. Now, if you'd like to try out this version of Ubuntu, you can follow the detailed instructions below.